Okay, we're going to get started. Again, this is Pete Wormter. I look after marketing here at QuandaGo, and I wanted to officially welcome you to our webinar on home agent engagement. You know, we really, if you see, it's a relatively intimate group, and that's really intended. We'll have anywhere from 10 to 15 attendees, those participating via audio as well as media streaming. And, you know, really the reason I point this out is we hope this can be an interactive session versus myself and the presenters here really just kind of speaking at you. We hope to have a bit of an exchange, and we have a more intimate group, even some names that I recognize. And I think hopefully that can drive a little discussion, especially at a Q&A session we'll have at the close of the webinar. Just a couple logistical tips. Again, if you haven't already, please do mute your audio and turn off your video. Video will not be needed for the call. We, again, do have a mechanism and really do encourage questions, so you can submit those through chat, and we're happy to kind of answer those throughout the session if they come up, so there's no need to wait. And then we're hopeful to have a discussion and an open Q&A as we close the session after our speakers. So really the goal today is to share knowledge and really exchange some information, advice, and success stories on how we've, you know, kind of lived and adapted our operations, even our lives during this coronavirus crisis. And, you know, really also looking ahead and to what's coming next, and, you know, how it may impact contact centers and customer engagement in the future. So it's no secret for all of us, especially those of you on the call running contact centers, that these are truly unprecedented times, and, you know, forcing companies to adapt quickly, and really contact centers really being on the front lines, and, you know, really leading the charge in many ways to shift operations to home agents. So that, you know, the pressure you've all been under, and I think living with, is you know, I don't think it can be underestimated. And if you look at some of today's media coverage, just, you know, we've gone from everything from adapting to home agents. You know, there's been debate as to whether call center agents are even essential workers. You know, we've experienced huge spikes in call volumes and trying to manage that, dealing with, you know, probably customers that are more emotional than ever and in need of help more than ever. And, you know, even starting to look ahead at again, how this might change the way we run contact centers, how new technologies may even come into play, and, you know, what normal looks like moving forward. So that's a little context of what we want to talk about today. And we have, you know, a great panel and list of speakers here. It's all about home agent engagement, but we'll look at it really from a few different angles: operations, technology, you know, morale, and how, you know, how we've adapted to this with some real world stories. So our first speaker is Radboud Heinkink. He's with QuandaGo and has deep experience in this area. And you may have seen a couple recent blogs that Radboud published on the QuandaGo blog. And he'll talk a bit about home office engagement from a best practices standpoint, and, you know, through his lens of expertise working with QuandaGo customers. Then we have Angela Muradin coming on. Angela is with RTL Nederland, and specifically Angela will share with us a very interesting story how Videoland, which I think you're all familiar with, has adapted and really dealt with an incredible change and spike in their business. So we'll have a Q&A session with Angela, and then Steffi Brodkorb from VANAD Engage. If you're not familiar with Engage, it's one of Europe's largest BPOs. Steffi has been running home agent operations for a long time and has experience there, and of course lots to share in the current situation we're in, and talk a bit about how she approaches running a home-based contact center operation. So I want to welcome and thank our speakers, and I'm excited to hear from you all as well. Again, we'll keep this as interactive as we can, and but we will have a Q&A at the close of the session. And again, with the group we have, I hope if you do have a question, you can certainly not hesitate to ask that. So with that said, I'm gonna hand it over to Radboud, our first speaker, to talk about the ins and outs and all the aspects around home agent engagement. Radboud?
Thank you, Pete. Good morning, all. Welcome also from my side this morning. As Pete just mentioned, I'm Radboud Heinkink, responsible for business development within QuandaGo, having a lot of experience setting up work from home environments, starting almost 12 years ago with work from home contact center environment. And I want to share some knowledge and also experience I have on this topic with you. More of the engagement of the agents, how you should start to trust this way of working, but also focusing on operations and technology around it, because it's very important supporting this way of working with the right tools, in my opinion. So I wanted to focus a little bit on that too. When you have questions, as Pete just mentioned, please put them in the chat, and then Pete will gather them, and at the end of the presentation, we will answer these questions when they come up. Okay, Robin, next slide. Maybe it's good because when we started 10, 12 years ago with working from home in a contact center environment, everybody said that, let's say these agents, they were a little bit negative on this. Is it possible to let them work from home? At that time, we started with the work from home company. And then we said, yeah, but maybe it's the most easiest environment to let them work from home, because within a contact center, when you have a good environment, a really good customer experience platform, everything can be measured. The average handle times, volumes, how long are the contact moments, how can you shorten them, how many first-time rides is there, how many repetitive interactions. But very important, you can also measure customer satisfaction nowadays. And what I think very important, also in a work from home environment, is the employee satisfaction. You can also now, there's enough tooling to focus on the employee satisfaction. And as we always say, happy customers, happy employees will lead to happy customers. So very important also to focus on this employee satisfaction and to be able to measure this in your environment too. And when you have trust yourself that work from home will work, then you should do this next step, and that's build trust within your team and enable your team to let them work in the best way from home in a virtual environment. And how do you enable your team? Yeah, nowadays it's possible to have real-time monitoring, real-time reporting, and you can also use this for yourself to manage the team. But I think it's very important to work towards self-steering teams. And how do you work towards self-steering teams? Let's try to push as much information as possible, when it's possible within GDPR and compliance stuff. But for example, why don't you put wallboards in a desktop? That's what we also started to do. So virtualize the wallboards and let agents see who's online, who works together with who's in a call, who's doing which work, etc. And also give them the feeling that they are not alone. So when you see your colleagues working together with you in an environment, for example, on the wallboard. And next step can be also to make them reachable for you within the environment. So centralize, for example, a chat environment. That's what we did in our platform. Make chat embedded so they can put questions and answers in this environment and see if they have some questions, that they are not alone, they're in a group and there are colleagues ready to respond. And you can think, is this possible during a call? But let's not forget, during work time and also during conversation, people are used to WhatsApping, sending messages to everybody and answer these while they are doing another thing. So sort of multitasking sometimes works. So they can also, and that's what we did, embed a chat environment so people can ask questions to their colleagues. And it might also be an idea to highlight, for example, the answers of supervisors or senior team members. So you can see when highlighted, for example, a red answer comes in, then it's question or an answer of someone who is trustable, who has the knowledge of this environment. Then it's might also interesting to enable your team to make, for example, traffic management reachable for your team members. They can also see in an environment how many people are online, how many people are in the queue, how busy is it. Maybe they can set up a call with a team member who's not working at that moment, send them a WhatsApp and say, hey, is it possible to join because it's very busy? And that makes your operations more flexible at that moment. All things to think about during your day-to-day operations. And the thing we also test with, and I think is very interesting, is to do more peer-to-peer feedback from a quality management perspective, but also listen to colleagues and see what about the sound quality. People were always asking us, hey, but what about a dog walking around in the house? When it's barking, customers can hear that. Yeah, but I do not think from an intrinsic motivation perspective people will hear this and that they will let their dog walk around in the house, or children, etc. But you can also control it by just letting colleagues now and then jump in a line and see and interact and listen to what the sound quality is about, and do this in a peer-to-peer environment. Also interesting to focus on another part is when you have a virtual team to manage, then it's becoming more of a sort of online community management instead of directive management, what you should focus on. So it's not more a traditional model of control, but it's more the new way, that's the community management part. And then it's also interesting to have sort of a community underneath to support your operations. What we do, for example, is we use collaboration tooling like Teams or Slack to make colleagues interact with each other during work time, but also to be able to put some ideas or innovative stuff in an environment and let them communicate. But also in this environment, you can save and record all these questions and answers and be able to communicate, but also look at it at a later time. And what I still think is very important, that there's just a difference between the daily operations in the contact center when you work together on one floor in one office or from home. When you work in an office, you can see all these people coming in every day. You look them in the eyes and you see if it's going well or not. If maybe they have a child that's ill or they have a sick dog or something. You can just sense it when you see people coming in and the way they behave. In a virtual environment, that's not that easy because you cannot really see them unless you have a webcam tuned in. But I do not think a lot of companies will do that during contact center environment operations. But what you can do is do a lot of frequent and qualitative communication attempts during a day. So not a one-to-one every week or every 2 days for 50 minutes, but just do a one-to-one every hour for a few minutes, just or 20 seconds, for example. Just plug in, answer some questions, send a chat, and when you have qualitative good questions you can ask to your employees, to your colleagues, and you can also get a feeling how they feel and where you should put more attention to them or not. Sometimes you can also do this in a peer-to-peer way. And then there's also an interesting way thing to think about, and that's the patients. When you do not see people, and then it's pretty, let's say you can think they are not doing anything, but in the meantime, be patient because they can interact with each other. They can be doing some stuff or interact or chat with each other, asking questions, giving answers, etc. And they're more in control, and you should accept that. So the self-steering part is very interesting, and I think when you put focus on that, then you can also get to a higher level of support and make your people feel more how do you call it, worthy during the work. Then another thing I wanted to focus on, I think helps very well, is the shift from a go to work or staying at home environment. Because you do not jump in the car or the train, or you jump on a bicycle to go to your work. You just go to another room, or maybe you even sit in the same environment at your desk, and you go to work in a virtual environment. But it's good, in my opinion, to have a shift between the go to work and the being at home environment. And maybe it's a good idea to set this up. What we did is we built a landing page where employees can go to work. So you go to the landing page, then you log in, and then you enter the work environment. There you can see everything in one place, single sign-on. You log into your applications, you enter in the community, you see the latest news, you see the topic of the day, new arrivals, stuff like that. But also the planning, who's in the community at that moment, who's working together with you, when do you work yourself? Maybe you could do some sort of self-planning in it. So a go-to-work environment via a landing page, let's say a portal, might be an interesting idea to give the feeling people go to work for real. And then they can close it, and then they go to their private situation again, and they log out of their work, literally. And that's one of the tools you could use from a technology perspective too, using these environments. Of course, the tools you need to be able to work from home in a contact center environment is a cloud-based SaaS contact center platform. I think myself, bring your own device might be very helpful and interesting, because a lot of employees like to work on their own environments. A lot of people have their own laptop or their own desktop at home and like to work on these environments. Then you should have some security policy embedded in your platform, the platform you use. You should have centralized access to applications, CRM, ERP, etc. But focusing on bring your own demand can be easier also to shift as fast as possible to this work from home environment. Then you only need internet and a good headset. I already mentioned the employee satisfaction, employee engagement. I think it's good to have a good tooling in place that allows your employees to score, but also to give feedback on their situation and the way they feel, and let them give feedback on how you can interact better between them and between the colleagues. So employee engagement scoring tools, very important in my opinion. And then I already mentioned the community and collaboration tooling, like Slack or Teams, just to make it possible to work in an environment where they can share knowledge and where they can also hook up with each other outside of work times when they want to, and share articles, stuff, just interesting, funny stuff, etc. Make a special corner for that too. Don't forget the funny part. And knowledge, very important. There's a lot of knowledge that should be used, that can be used, and make it accessible, preferably from a central environment, but also make it adaptable. So when new knowledge is there, it can be added to it. Of course, there should be some sort of curation around it, but make it adaptable so people can add new knowledge to this environment and make it reusable. So like text, you can reuse directly in an email or during a conversation in a chat or a WhatsApp environment, etc. So make it ready to reuse all this knowledge. Then gamification is also very interesting. We use a lot of gamification stuff in two ways. Not only the tooling, you can also, for example, push teams to perform against each other. Which team works better, has the most engaged customers, end customers for their team, etc. But you can also use tooling that is via a gamification way able to do knowledge sharing within the environment. For example, you push questions on some new stuff around your company. You push questions around it, and then you can measure the answers. And when you do some repetitive questions on these topics, people start to be trained and get the knowledge to themselves in a gamification way. Very interesting. And don't forget the e-learnings. Might be a time now to shift to remote training, to do to get up with e-learnings and see what tools are available in the market to step up to e-learning when you do not use it already. But yeah, in the next weeks, month, it will be the best way to go to these e-learning environments. The last thing I think it's interesting to see when you go like more of a helicopter view above your operations is to put some sort of analytics around your environment and to be able to see which processes and interactions at this moment take most of the time within your operations. I think when you watch from a helicopter perspective to your operations, maybe there are some processes that take 80% of the time, while they can also be automated. And this might be the time to deep dive more and more into these processes, using some analytics tooling around it, and or just gut feeling. Sometimes it works too. And then say, okay, what can we automate? Which processes take a long time, and we can automate it. These processes, and we call it ourselves intelligent process automation. But it takes a lot of time and effort from your colleagues, your employees, and then they can focus on the more interesting stuff where humans can be adding value on this. So process automation might be an interesting opportunity now. And then I want to mention the conversational analytics part, because when you do quality management, that's more of, let's say, 1 out of 100 conversations, 1 out of 500 conversations you listen to, or interactions you read again to see what's happening. We have some sort of conversation analytics environment around it. It might be possible to do 100% coverage of all your interactions and let the system crawl through these conversations and search for outliers. Then you can say, okay, give me the 10 positive and negative outliers and give focus on these ones, and being sure no interaction does not get touched during the operations. Very interesting way to speed up your quality of your total operations as fast as possible. It might also be interesting to see if you can put quality compliance control in a way with supported by conversation analytics, because you can also deep dive into which way of interacting with the customers, which questions should be asked, which questions are not asked. Automating this can make your contact center operations go to a next level without human interaction, human effort being put on this. So for my part, this was my part of the more technology part of the operations within the work from home environment. And I want to give my words to the next speaker of today, to Angela.
Actually, Radboud, thanks for doing that. I'll hand it over to Angela just very quickly. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, Angela's going to come on and do a quick Q&A with us, and we'll have a bit of a conversation. So Angela, maybe before we jump into the questions, if you could maybe just tell us and tell the group a little bit more about yourself and your role at RTL and Videoland.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Angela Muradin. I'm head of customer care at RTL Netherlands. We are a Dutch TV broadcaster, and my main focus is to deliver the best service towards RTL visitors, our viewers, and the clients of our video on demand platforms. I'm also part of the management team of Videoland. We are the #2 VOD platform in the Netherlands. It's also the biggest domain we service at our call center. We have an in-house call center with 30 FTEs, 45 people. We are open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. till 10 p.m. And since we are an online platform, we focus on online service. Messenger and live chat are our main channels, but we also have telephone and email. Those are also part of the service.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, and so thanks for that. That provides some great context. So, look, as we jump in here, maybe we can take a step back and, you know, back to even March or mid-March or so, and you know, look at, you know, some of the first steps that you took with your employees and your agents in particular to help really kind of adapt to this new world that we had to live in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we started early, the beginning of March, to inventory what we needed to organize, what we had to organize for working from home for a long period. At the office, we have flexible working spaces with desktops, and we also use hard phones. So laptops and soft phones was the main thing we needed. We use the QuandaGo application, of course, for live chat and for our inbound and outbound calls for several projects. So it was very important that the soft phone application was ready to use. So when we had that in place, we started to work from home in shifts to test all the systems, but of course how to connect each other and have feeling with the operation. We saw that the SIP systems worked perfectly. So the biggest priority was taken care of. But simple things as how to connect with each other, have access to the dashboards at the office, because we have dashboards on big screens. See who is working, who's having a break, what skills are taken care of. Those were things we had to organize. And after a day or two that we started all to work from home, we gave the agents access to those dashboards on their desktops, and give them access to all queues, who is doing what, but very important, what have you done? Because also very important, not only to see what is the incoming traffic, but what's my performance at the moment, and what is the performance of my team member. So they got some feeling with the amount of work, with the teams, with the queues, yeah, all those things in one. We saw that apart from the systems, those were the things that were very needed when people started to work from home.
Interesting, interesting. And in terms of customer engagement, I mean, were there any changes, you know, to the way you engaged with customers during the crisis? And, you know, were there any unexpected issues or even opportunities that evolved as this operation started running?
Yeah. Yeah, we saw some changes. Videoland is an online platform. So what I said before, our service is online organized. Messenger and live chat are channels where we promise a fast handling time. And what we saw after the first day of the lockdown, that the lockdown was announced here in Holland, we saw an enormous load of new customers coming to our platform, and still we are growing bigger every day. So the amount of traffic was so big. In a normal situation, we probably would hire extra agents. But since we did not have time for that, I changed something in the way we serviced our customers. What in this time worked out very positive is that I have organized my team to be multi-skilled. Everyone can handle all the skills we offer. So what I did is we kept the opening hours for our customers the same, from 10 till 10. But instead of offering all channels within these hours, we have shortened some of them. Since Messenger is our biggest channel, we kept that the same, also the handling time. but we shortened the opening hours for our telephone. But within this time, we make sure that we have maximum capacity to handle all the questions. And live chat and email, we organized that before and after the opening hours of our telephone service. So this helped to decrease the repeated traffic on all channels. It increases the customer satisfaction. And very important, it also gave a lot of rest to our agents. They didn't see all those questions on all those channels, but it's better organized. So these measures worked out very good. And
yeah. So it looks like, you know, the flexibility, not only in having all these channels available, but being able to kind of dynamically, you know, turn them on and turn them off in concert with available staff, and maybe with changes to your scheduling and so forth. Sounds really, really interesting. And do you think, you know, this will bring maybe any kind of permanent changes to your contact center strategy or how your operations moving forward? Have you thought about that yet?
yeah, I think in a normal situation, I would never have changed something in our channels in opening hours for telephone. But now this works very good. If I think toward the future, this is something we will carry on, because it also helps control the costs of the call center. And working from home is also something we will carry on. For instance, in the weekends, the very good thing we also learned from this is that the agent productivity increased since we all work from home. There's less distraction. So yes, these are things we will carry on in the future.
Yeah, interesting. Really interesting, in fact. Yeah. So look, I think that was a great view on a little bit the operational side, Angela. Thank you for that. Maybe let's shift a little bit to the human side of what's happened, and maybe some of the things you've done to, you know, keep employees engaged, to keep agent morale up, maybe to keep connections and some sort of social connectivity with colleagues while they're all physically separated. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah. So what we did is we immediately started with a daily video call. So the instruction is that everybody puts down all work for 30 minutes and takes part in a meeting to keep feeling with the operation, with us, with their colleagues, with what is going on. And where it's easy to connect with each other at the office, we now have to schedule much more one-on-one calls. We see that our two supervisors in particular receive a lot of work because they coordinate the first questions, comments, etc. People who want to share something, but not with us, but with the supervisor. So we saw a lot of work coming on their side. So what we did, the MT with my MT, we are much more involved in the day-to-day business. We help on all channels and ensure that processes that do not go smoothly are addressed through our product owner. So we are much more involved in the day-to-day business as we would have if we were in the office. A disadvantage of what I for my person, if I speak for myself, from working from home, is that you make much longer days than before, and if you and before you know, you are busy 7 days a week. So that's something that we had. I in person found difficult. Because of it was difficult to let go because of the amount of traffic. But yeah, you are excited. Things are going very well. But now I found a niche to this. we have standby schedules with the MT, so I don't have to work 7 days a week. What we also do is we organize online pub quizzes for the team, online parties, so everybody comes online with a glass in their hand and talk with each other. We also provided a lot of trainees for the team to keep the feeling strong. But also in the first week, we sent everyone a postcard. If there's a birthday, normally you would we will give you a present, but now it's of course the flowers if it's your birthday. But also spontaneous calls. How are you doing? Very important to keep the spirit high.
Yeah.
So those are things we are very busy. That makes that fills your day. Normally, you wouldn't have that at the office because you can see if someone is happy or not. Yeah, and that's a little bit difficult.
Yeah. No,
it's very important.
Indeed. Look, we talked a lot about and what you and RTL and Videoland have done for agents. Can you tell us a little bit more about maybe as the person running the contact center, maybe how technology or other changes you brought into your remote operations and how it maybe made your life a little easier?
Yeah. All our systems are behind an Okta portal. So that's a single sign-on with two-factor authentication, and that's very easy to use. You can use it on your desktop, on your laptop, on your phone. So we had that already in place. But at the office, we use hard phones and desktops and headsets. So the only thing that had to be organized fast was to install those soft phones behind the Okta. And we had to use it from the Okta portal and order some cables to use the headphones we normally use on the hard phones. So that we had to organize, and since we have all the systems in behind an Okta portal, we have a lot of students who said, and a lot of people working at the call center who said, I want to use my own device. So that was very easy to handle. I think we had to order 10 laptops for the rest of the group. So that was organized very fast. Of course, you guys, QuandaGo, helped us within a day to install the soft phones, provide instructions, and make everything ready to use. And with the manager application we use, the VANAD manager application, it's very easy to manage or change IVR skill settings and have access to all the queues we have, all the projects. So we were very happy that everything we needed was in place and we could carry on from home. We also made an agreement with the team to only use 2 systems for daily chats. So we use Slack to communicate for the daily operation and of course for individual chats, and we use Microsoft Teams for meetings and for presentations. So this way we keep the internal messages and questions organized, and of course Slack is also very workable for individual chit chats with your colleagues. So that's how we organized that.
Yeah, interesting. Well, it sounds like you've really covered all the aspects. What's next for RTL and maybe Videoland in particular as maybe things come back to normal, just as our last question here, Angela?
Okay. I think what's next? The first thing we all want is to party and celebrate the performance we have nowadays on video. combine that with working from home. So my boss asked me, don't you think that people will be distracted if we go back to the normal and they work from home? But the finest thing of working at the call center and have all dashboarding in place is that from the moment you log in, we can see what you're doing. So I think the call center is the best organized team at the moment at RTL that can carry on from home. And we will be doing that in the future. Yeah, this was a very good experience, and yeah, we are happy with it. So yes, we will go back to the office, but not for 7 days from 10 till 10 again.
Yeah. Well, look, it sounds like you really did an outstanding job. So congratulations on that, and we do hope everyone in your world is healthy, and we can get back to normal. So thank you, Angela. Angela will be available for anyone who has questions at the close of the webinar. Again, you can submit those via chat. Let's move on. Thank you, Angela. We're going to move on now to Steffi from VANAD Engage, and Steffi is going to talk a little bit about her experience and life as a home-based contact center manager. So Steffi, welcome. Maybe you can tell the audience a little bit more about yourself, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Pete. I'm Steffi, and tomorrow it's my birthday, and I get 45. I was born in East Germany, and I live in the Netherlands now for 26 years. In the customer service world, I work for 20 years right now, and I joined the VANAD family 11 years ago. So it's quite a long time in the customer service world. I was by VANAD also part of the operational management team together with Radboud when we started work from home in 2009. And now I'm responsible for new business for VANAD Engage. And yeah, I think the best is let's take a look of a couple of slides, then I can tell you a bit how we work at VANAD Engage with work from home. Pete, like you mentioned before, a couple of months ago was work from home for the most companies and employees a free choice. And in these times, it's work from home a necessity. And I believe that we must prepare our employees that work from home is the new way of work, and prepare us at the same time that this is not the last time that we work from home. So by VANAD Engage, we started in 2009 and built up our work from home teams from 10 employees up till almost 1,000 employees who work from home. And when we look at how we work, so when we all work from home, we must be aware that success depends on your technology and your people management. And we talked already about the technology part, so let's focus on the people part. Because I believe together we must find the balance between the skills and behavior and needs and wants from our employees, and on the other side, the management skills and motivation from our supervisors. So in the end, we all want happy, satisfied employees and happy customers, of course. And that's why we need also the results. And how we reach our results is the balance between motivation, expectation, and communication in all the different layers in our organization. So let's take a look at the next slide, what work from home means for our employees. When we look at the employee side, then we actually all need, in an ideal world, self-reliant entrepreneurs at home. But we don't live in an ideal world. So we must prepare our employees that we're working apart, but still together. And as managers, we do a great job when our employees feel involved adaptive, and focused. But this is only possible when we as managers are aware of the following points. So let's start on the left side, like using ICT and tools. Our employees don't only need a laptop and the tools to work, but also a training and support to become self-reliant. Think about the access to the systems, the roles and rights, and how you can support remotely when they have troubles. So also, what is very important, every employee has different personal circumstances. You know, you must know how many people are in the same house or in the same room and work together, and how employees feel when they can't make a split anymore between work and private time or work and private space. And all these things can influence the behavior of our employees in a positive or in a negative way. And here is the role of the supervisor key to success. And about planning and structure, with a work from home schedule, we can facilitate more flexibility, for example, with split shifts, that you can work in the morning 4 hours and in the evening or night 4 hours, and in the meanwhile you have some spare time. And you know, we can create flexibility, but we need, like everybody needs, also structure. And that's important, that you make a plan and structure in your daily work day, that you get a routine. And all that points can be covered by a clear, open, and transparent communication. You can work, for example, with a communication matrix or an escalation matrix to facilitate always a backup support and to give the security to your employees that be working apart but still together. And I think that's the most important from the employee side. And when we go one slide further and we look at the supervisor side, thank you, Robin, then we see, so on the one hand, we need people who are willing to do a great job. And on the other hand, we need supervisors who are willing to manage people and to reach results. And how we do this by VANAD Engage in our daily business is, let's start it on the figure on the left side again, by safety and health first. Everybody who works from home must have a safe workspace where they can work and feel like they are in the office. And working from the couch or kitchen table should not be a habit. But we always say to our people, get up, get dressed, and go to your work at home. And all our employees filled in checklists and make pictures from their workplaces, and that we are sure that they have a safe and good workplace to do their good job. And it depends on the requirements. We support hardware or tools and access to all the systems they need. So keep in touch with your employees, and if they have trouble with the workplace, the hardware of the tools, fix it. There's nothing more frustrating than issues with your workplace. So that's a very important for the role of the supervisor, that you are there for your employees, listen to them, understand them, and fix it, that they can work, that they can focus on the results and on the team spirit. And know your team personal contact, I mean, talk with everybody to find out what are the personal circumstances at home are, to make the link between every individual and their behavior. In work from home requirement, we must make a differentiation to coach and support every single individual at home. So pick up the phone and call your people at home, and don't send an overload on emails. Make the real connection, and understand what they want and need. So of course we must reach our targets, and how better the bond is with your team members, how better the results will be. So, but that's why everybody must have a clear goal and share the progress of the goals daily or weekly. We do a kickoff, if this is possible, do a kickoff and come together in a video call, if this is possible, so that you share the progress and look where we are with the results, the individual goals, but also the team goals. And a video call is much more interactive than send it only by email. So that's the thing what we really learn in the beginning. We started and sent a lot of information by email, but if you are at home and you don't see each other, you don't read it anymore. So we learn, pick up the phone, and now in these days use video call and make it interactive and get the dialogue with your employees. For distant coaching and learning, we use digital quality forms in QuandaGo, and we developed a program how we coach on distance and how we learn on distance. For that, we use Learning Cloud, and we build our own distant learning programs with VANAD Academy. So if you facilitate learning and coaching on a digital way, then you are be sure that your employees still involved in the whole process. And you can measure also the test results. And you can measure it individual, but also by team. And then you see the progress and share the progress with the individuals or the team. And last but not least, but practice what you preach. As a supervisor, be a role model and stick to your plan and your agreement with your employees, and take care of every individual. So keep the faith. I call it keep the faith, learn, score, and repeat. We are not perfect. We really, everybody must learn how it works, what works when we work from home and what doesn't. So keep the faith, don't give up, and learn, score, and repeat. And this is, in a nutshell, what is, from my point of view, important to think about from the employee side and the side of the supervisor.
That's great, Steffi. Thank you very much. Another really kind of great perspective on the many kind of elements to consider when trying to get these operations right. So thank you very much, Steffi. That was great, great to hear. We're certainly open for questions. You can submit those by chat if you have any. Recognize that we're also a few minutes over. So if there are no questions, I do want to thank Radboud, Angela, and Steffi once again. I want to thank all of you for attending. We will follow up and send you some additional information and content to help with your efforts around home agent operations. So thank you for attending. We will hold our next webinar in May, and we hope to see you there. Thank you.